The battlefield looked like the aftermath of a dying star. Smoke rolled across the shattered valley in heavy, choking waves. Burned-out artillery units lay twisted like skeletal remains. Dropships smoldered where they'd fallen, their hulls split open, reactor cores bleeding pale blue light into the ash-filled air. The smell was everywhere. Ionized plasma, scorched alloy, burnt insulation, and something metallic beneath it all. Sergeant Callan Reeves stepped over the shattered remains of a combat drone, its optic sensor flickering weakly as if still searching for orders that would never come. His boots crunched against spent casings and broken armor fragments. Too loud. Everything felt too loud in the silence that followed annihilation. His HUD flickered violently. Comms. Offline. Unit status. No signal. Orbital support. Lost. He tapped the side of his helmet anyway. Vanguard squad, respond. Static. Nothing else. The Threxian assault had been precise. Devastating. They'd targeted command relays first, then supply nodes, then the anti-air grid. By the time the Marines realized the pattern, the line had already fractured. Callan remembered Corporal Jean's screaming coordinates as artillery shells tore through the trench. Remembered dragging Lieutenant Morrow toward cover before a plasma wave swallowed half the ridge. 41 Marines deployed to this sector.
No.
His bioscanner showed one friendly signature.
Him.
He exhaled slowly. Figures. The wind shifted the smoke, revealing more devastation. Alliance banners burned in stubborn flickers. A Threxian siege walker lay collapsed, its armored legs twisted at impossible angles.
Then.
His motion tracker pulsed. Callan froze. A faint biological signature flickered 30 meters ahead, partially obscured beneath the wreckage of a collapsed barricade. Not Threxian. Too stable. Too refined. He dropped into a crouch, rifle rising smoothly to his shoulder. Augmented fibers in his combat suit tightened as he advanced through drifting ash. The signal weakened. But it didn't disappear. He rounded the edge of the barricade. And stopped. Half buried beneath twisted plating lay a figure that did not belong in the dirt. Her armor was elegant, sculpted silver with flowing alien glyphs etched into its surface. Cracked now. Burned. Streaked with luminous violet blood. Her hair spilled across the broken stone like liquid moonlight. Arisari. And not just any Arisari. The crest at her collar, fractured but unmistakable, bore the sigil of the high war houses. An elite warrior caste. Humanity's strongest ally against the Threxians. Her eyes fluttered open. Storm gray. Focused. Unafraid. His medical overlay activated automatically. Spinal trauma. Severe. Neural disruption. Complete lower paralysis. Survival probability. Critical. In the distance, Threxian hunting calls echoed through the smoke. She heard them too. Then she looked back at him. "You should leave," she said calmly. Behind him stretched nothing but ash and silence. No squad. No reinforcements. No extraction. Everyone had fallen back. Everyone had chosen survival. Everyone had left her to die. Except him. Callan's visor flooded with clinical data. Vertebral column. Shattered. Neural link. Severed below T8. Internal bleeding. Severe. Field survival probability. 2.6%. The numbers hovered in cold white text, indifferent to species, rank, or courage. He crouched beside her anyway. Up close, the damage was undeniable. The collapsed barricade had crushed her lower body beneath several tons of alloy plating. Even Arisari regenerative biology couldn't repair spinal severance without advanced medbay support. And there was no medbay. Only ash. Only smoke. "You see the outcome," she said quietly, studying the reflection in his visor. "My body will not rise again." Behind him, his HUD triggered emergency retreat protocol. Sector lost. Preserve remaining combat asset. Immobile allied personnel. Do not engage extraction. Combat asset. That was him now. Just one Marine left standing in a valley of wreckage. A distant Threxian shriek echoed through the smoke. Then another. His motion tracker pulsed. Multiple signatures. Closing. You are alone, she continued, her voice steady despite the faint tremor beneath it. Your command has withdrawn. Reinforcements will not return for this ground. Another pulse. 5 hostiles. 180 meters. If he left now, he could reach the canyon ridge in under 7 minutes. The terrain there would disrupt thermal scans. He might survive. He might even regroup. You fought well, she said. Your unit delayed the Threxian advance beyond projections. He swallowed. He remembered Corporal Jin's last transmission cutting off mid-coordinate. Remembered Morrow's hand slipping from his grip as the trench collapsed under plasma bombardment. He had already left someone behind once. He still heard that moment in his sleep. Go, she said more firmly now. Your survival carries greater strategic value than mine. Strategic value. Logical. Efficient. His visor flashed the directive again. Do not compromise survivor for immobile casualty. The Threxian shrieks grew louder. Shapes began to move through the smoke. Her storm-gray eyes locked onto him. This is not cruelty, she said. It is war. He stared at the cold text hovering in his HUD. Then at her. An Arisari high war warrior, the very species that had bled beside humanity for 2 decades. She had crossed star systems to defend human colonies. And now she lay paralyzed in human soil. Because she had fought beside them. His jaw tightened. The motion tracker spiked. 100 meters. He stood slowly. For a heartbeat, she believed he had chosen correctly. Then he slung his rifle across his back. Her eyes narrowed. What are you doing? He crouched again, not to recheck her injuries, but to slide one arm beneath her shoulders, the other beneath her waist. His armor servos whined as they recalibrated under the added weight. This is irrational, she said sharply. Human, this will end you. Yeah, he replied through clenched teeth as he lifted her carefully against his chest. Behind them, Threxian silhouettes emerged through drifting ash. He turned toward the canyon ridge. I didn't survive this war, he said quietly, steady despite the chaos closing in, to leave someone behind. And then he stepped forward, carrying her into the fire. Callan ran straight into the smoke. Plasma bolts tore through the air behind him, scorching the ground where he'd been seconds earlier. His combat suit compensated for the added weight in his arms, servos adjusting stride length and balance in real time. The Arisari warrior remained steady against his chest, one arm locked firmly around his shoulder despite the paralysis below her waist. You are overstriding, she observed calmly. Appreciate the feedback, he muttered, vaulting over a collapsed anti-vehicle barricade. Next time I sprint through a battlefield carrying an alien war hero, I'll schedule a warm-up. Adjust your center of gravity 2 degrees right, she said. There is a Threxian unit ahead, concealed behind the wreckage at your 11. He shifted instantly. A Threxian burst from cover exactly where she predicted, jagged plasma blade raised. Callan didn't slow. He dropped to one knee, bracing her securely with one arm while firing a tight burst with the other. The creature's shoulder joint detonated in a shower of sparks and chitin. Nice call, he said. I possess heightened sensory arrays, she replied evenly. Yeah, I'm starting to like those. His motion tracker flared again. They are forming a pincer, she said. 3 on your right. 2 attempting vertical approach. Of course they are. He pivoted sharply instead of retreating straight back, cutting across open terrain toward a half-collapsed dropship. Plasma fire chased them. You deviate from optimal retreat vectors, she noted. Optimal gets predictable. A Threxian leapt from elevated debris. Before he could fully rotate, her forearm bracer ignited. A ribbon of violet energy snapped outward, slicing through the attacker mid-air. The body hit the ground in 2 smoking halves. He blinked once. Remind me not to get into a debate with you. You would lose, she replied without hesitation. Fair. Another blast struck nearby, forcing him behind the dropship hull. He twisted slightly, shielding her from incoming fire. You are absorbing unnecessary impact, she said. Occupational hazard. You are reckless. I prefer committed. She studied him briefly, storm-gray eyes sharper now. You fight as though death is irrelevant. He peeked around cover, firing 2 precise shots that dropped advancing Threxians. Death's relevant, he said. Failure's worse. That silenced her. They moved again, this time smoother. Less burden. More coordination. She anticipated his turns instinctively, adjusting her upper body for balance. He responded to subtle shifts in her breathing and posture, reading threats through her tension even before his HUD flagged them. Improvised. Effective. Deadly. A Threxian rushed from their blind spot. Behind, she began. He was already turning. Plasma struck center mass. The creature fell. For a brief moment between volleys, their faces were inches apart, smoke curling between them. You could still abandon me, she said softly. He tightened his grip slightly. Yeah, he replied. But then I'd miss out on the tactical commentary. A faint, almost reluctant smile touched her lips. You flirt during combat, she observed. Multitasking. Another explosion rocked the valley. They didn't flinch. Because somewhere between the fire and the falling ash, obligation had become trust. And trust was becoming something far more dangerous. The canyon narrowed into a fractured corridor of stone and twisted metal. Half embedded in the rock wall was an Arisari command vessel, its crescent hull cracked but still faintly illuminated from within. Callan ducked inside. Emergency lights cast the interior in soft silver-violet glow. Consoles were shattered. Bulkheads warped. But at the center of the medical bay stood something untouched. A crystalline structure spiraled upward from the deck, translucent, humming with quiet harmonic energy. Threads of light moved through it like liquid starlight. The Arisari warrior went completely still in his arms. Set me down, she said softly. He lowered her carefully onto a stable platform. What is it? He asked. A sovereign convergence spire, she replied, storm-gray eyes locked on the structure. It is reserved for high war lineage. Translation. It can restore my spine. His gaze sharpened. And the cost? She hesitated, pride warring with honesty. It does not function alone. It requires 2 participants. 1 injured, he said, and 1 whole. Outside, distant Threxian screeches echoed closer. The spire forms a neural bridge between both subjects, she continued. Genetic structures synchronize. Emotional states align. Physiologies adapt toward compatibility. He stared at her. How permanent? It cannot be undone, she said quietly. Among my people, entering convergence with another binds bloodlines. It is more sacred than marriage. More permanent than treaty. Another impact rattled the vessel hull. You should leave, she added, though her voice no longer carried command. This decision alters destiny. Arisari bloodlines are guarded fiercely. Callan stepped toward the spire instead. Are you warning me? He asked evenly, brushing his gloved hand across the crystalline surface. Or proposing? A faint violet flush touched her cheeks. I am explaining consequences. He met her gaze. Will it heal you? Yes. And we won't be the same afterward. No. He exhaled slowly. I already carried you through enemy fire, he said. Pretty sure we crossed that line. He crouched and lifted her once more. You accept this without deliberation? She asked. I deliberated while getting shot at. He stepped inside the spire. The crystalline walls ignited instantly. Ancient Arisari glyphs flared in cascading spirals of light. The air thickened, vibrating with harmonic resonance. She placed her hand over his chest. This joins more than flesh, she whispered. Good, he replied quietly. The spire sealed. Light enveloped them. Not burning. Not blinding. Enfolding. Energy flowed through him like liquid fire and starlight combined, threading into muscle, bone, nerve. He felt something ancient brush against his consciousness, disciplined, fierce, luminous. She gasped. He felt her broken spine knit, her strength surge, her guarded solitude unravel. And she felt him, his stubborn loyalty, his buried grief, his refusal to abandon anyone again. Their DNA responded. Not clashing. weaving. Two evolutionary paths intertwining into a single harmonic pattern. Their foreheads touched in the center of the radiant storm. War faded. Pain dissolved. And in its place, connection. Chosen. Unbreakable. Something had just begun. And the Alliance would never see it coming. The light receded in slow, deliberate waves. Callan blinked, and realized he could feel 2 heartbeats. The Arisari warrior stood before him. Standing. Her posture was flawless, regal, restored. The fractures in her armor had fused into seamless silver contours. Faint currents of violet energy pulsed beneath her skin, synchronized with something deeper. Their bond. "I am whole," she said. But he had already felt it. Her awareness brushed against his thoughts like a second layer of perception. Not intrusive. Not overwhelming. Interwoven. Outside, metal screamed. Threxians. Breaching the canyon. Right flank. 3 units. 1 elevated. Her voice echoed inside his mind. He turned before the vessel doors exploded inward. Threxian warriors surged through smoke, plasma blades raised. Callan's rifle came up. But he already knew where to fire. Because she did. His first shot struck a vulnerable joint seam. The second disabled a plasma emitter before it discharged. At the exact same instant, she moved. Twin arcs of radiant energy flared from her gauntlets as she advanced with fluid precision. Her strikes landed precisely where his fire created openings. A combat symphony erupted. He pivoted left. She stepped right. He fired high. She struck low. Every motion flowed into the next with inhuman precision. A Threxian leapt from above. Callan dropped to one knee without thinking. She vaulted off his shoulder, spinning midair to cleave the attacker in a single luminous arc before landing at his back. They rotated. Back to back. Lethal dance. Plasma bolts and energy blades carved through the smoke in flawless synchronization. No shouted commands. No hesitation. Only shared instinct. The Threxians faltered. Ambush attempts collapsed before execution. Flanking maneuvers failed under predictive counterfire. Every weakness exploited the instant it appeared. "Behind us," she warned. He was already firing. 3 more fell. Within moments, silence reclaimed the canyon. Bodies lay scattered in a near-perfect ring around them. Callan lowered his rifle slowly. She stood beside him, energy blades humming before fading. Through their bond, exhilaration surged, amplified, unified. 2 species alone had fought bravely. But together, they were something more. Sharper. Stronger. Unstoppable. The canyon fell quiet again. Smoke drifted lazily through the shattered hull of the Arisari vessel. The faint glow of the convergent spire dimmed to a soft pulse, like a heartbeat settling after exertion. Callan lowered his rifle. Across from him, the Arisari warrior stood tall, no trace of paralysis, no weakness in her stance. The bond between them hummed steadily, no longer sharp and reactive like it had been in combat. Now it felt deeper. He could sense her breathing, her pulse, the lingering echo of adrenaline fading into something warmer. "I can feel you thinking," he said quietly. "You think loudly," she replied, though her tone carried a softness it hadn't before. Their awareness brushed together naturally now, not forced, not overwhelming. A shared current of thought. Then he felt it, a second rhythm beneath theirs. Faint, subtle. He frowned slightly. "That's not us," he murmured. She stilled instantly. Her hand rose almost instinctively to rest against her abdomen. Through the bond, realization formed first in her mind, then flowed into his. A spark. Tiny, bright, alive. Her storm-gray eyes widened, not in fear, in wonder. "The convergence accelerated more than neural alignment," she whispered. "It aligned futures." Callan swallowed. "You're sure?" She closed her eyes briefly, focusing inward through their shared awareness. "Yes." The spark pulsed again, fragile yet undeniable, brushing gently against their consciousness like a distant star beginning to burn. "Our bond didn't just merge us," she said softly. "It created something new," he finished. The weight of it settled between them. A child. Not engineered in laboratories. Not arranged through political treaty. Born of choice. Of defiance. Outside, distant Threxian shrieks echoed once more. The war had not ended. But something had shifted. Her posture changed subtly, not just warrior now. Mother. We are no longer fighting only for survival, she said. Callan stepped closer, resting his hand gently over hers. Through the bond, he felt the spark respond faintly to his presence. No, he agreed quietly. We're fighting for the future. The battlefield had already taken enough. This was something worth carrying through fire again. And this time, the Alliance would never expect what they had just begun. Alliance reinforcements descended before nightfall. Gunships tore through the smoke-dark sky while armored transports sealed off the canyon perimeter. Human officers disembarked alongside Arisari High Council envoys, their expressions tight with urgency. Then they saw the readings. Inside the recovered vessel, holographic displays shimmered wildly. Human tactical software and Arisari harmonic matrices were no longer conflicting. They were synchronizing. Plasma cannons recalibrated automatically to match resonance frequencies. Shield arrays adapted mid-cycle, layering energy fields that should have mathematically destabilized each other. Admiral Torin stared at the projection. That integration curve is impossible, he muttered. We've spent years trying to force compatibility. Beside him, Arisari Matriarch Vera's silver eyes narrowed. Our harmonic systems cannot align with human combustion cores, she said slowly. The energy signatures should cancel. They don't, Callan replied calmly. The Arisari warrior stood beside him, her hand resting lightly over her abdomen. It is not the systems adapting, she said. It is our child. Silence filled the chamber. As if responding to her words, perimeter alarms flared. A renewed Threxian assault surged across the canyon ridge. But this time, the defense grid activated before anyone issued a command. Human plasma batteries shifted firing cadence to match Arisari resonance pulses. Shield matrices altered frequency in perfect anticipation of incoming strikes. Targeting algorithms predicted enemy vectors before they fully formed. On the holo display, it looked less like combat, and more like orchestration. A technological symphony. Every weapon supporting the next. Every system reinforcing the other. The Threxian charge faltered within minutes. Then broke. Long-range sensors confirmed retreat across the sector. They're withdrawing, a human lieutenant whispered. Not routed. Not annihilated. Deterred. Matriarch Vera turned slowly toward the warrior. This was not laboratory synthesis, she said. No genetic experiment produced this. No, the warrior replied steadily. It was chosen. Love over fear. Connection over control. Through the bond, their unborn child's faint consciousness brushed gently across the systems, not dominating, but harmonizing. Natural. Unforced. Admiral Torin exhaled slowly. This is not merely a hybrid, he murmured. It is the next evolution. For the first time in decades, the Alliance understood that unity could not be engineered. It had to be chosen. 8 months later, the canyon was unrecognizable. Where scorched trenches and shattered hulls once scarred the earth, a joint human, Arisari unity complex now rose from the stone, alloy towers interwoven with luminous crystalline arches. Steel and resonance crystal stood side by side, not competing, not interfering. Harmonizing. What had once been a battlefield had become a symbol. Inside the Unity Medical Pavilion, human diagnostic monitors worked seamlessly alongside Arisari harmonic fields. Energy that once destabilized now flowed in layered equilibrium, protocols rewritten after the canyon incident. Callan stood beside the birthing chamber, armored hands far steadier in combat than they were now. You charged through artillery without hesitation, the Arisari warrior murmured, silver hair cascading over her shoulders as another contraction passed. Yet this unsettles you. I prefer enemies that don't arrive on their own schedule, he admitted. Through their bond, deeper and richer with time, he felt her strength, her focus. And their child. Brilliant. Ready. The chamber lights dimmed gently as the final moment arrived. Then, a cry filled the room. Strong. Clear. Alive. The medical team stepped back in silent awe as their son was placed into his mother's arms. He was perfect. Skin carrying a faint iridescent undertone beneath warm human hues. Dark hair threaded with subtle strands of silver. And when his eyes opened, storm gray merged with deep human brown in seamless fusion. A bridge between worlds. Nearby systems recalibrated automatically, not overridden, not seized, but gently aligned by the newborn's presence. He is harmonizing frequencies instinctively, a human technician whispered. Without strain, an Arisari healer added softly. Outside the complex, joint fleets patrolled shared sectors. Diplomatic accords once bound by necessity had transformed into genuine alliance. Phyrexian incursions had diminished dramatically, deterred not by fear, but by unity. Not domination. Not conquest. Cooperation. Callan stepped closer, brushing a finger against his son's tiny hand. The infant gripped it instinctively. Through the bond, warmth radiated across all three of them, steady, powerful, certain. A family. A future. He leaned forward, resting his forehead gently against hers. "When I found you on that battlefield," he said quietly, "I never imagined we'd change the galaxy."